kind of want to say action. Can you say action? Take one. Action. Let's go. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Perfect. Let's go with the recap. We start with vocabulary. What type of words do you remember from last time that are interesting that we should keep in mind? Vocabulary. Sarah.
A lion's share.
A lion's share. Yes. Again. Oleg.
A bill.
A bill. Alex.
First pass the ball.
First pass the pole. Next, vocabulary we saw. Gaëtan.
General election.
General election. Arthur.
The cabinet.
The cabinet. Remember more things about the British monarchy, a little bit more. What do we remember about British monarchy?
The House of Lords.
House of Lords. Louis.
The head of state and head of Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm. Mathilde.
Head of Church of England.
Head of the Church of England. Yes. Eva.
The House of Commons.
The House of Commons. Yes. Charles.
The dignified part of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Dignified. Mm-hmm. Charlotte.
The efficient part.
The efficient part. Zoe.
Stability. Unity.
Mm-hmm. Now think about the chapter you read. In that chapter, what are words that you think are very important that we remember? Zoe.
Class structure.
Class structure. Yes.
Parliamentary.
Parliamentary monarchy. Eva.
Above the party frame.
Yes. Sarah.
Diamond Jubilee.
Diamond Jubilee. Jubilee.
Jubilee.
Mm-hmm. Zoe.
Income inequalities.
Income inequalities. Sure. Elsa.
Modern monarchy.
Modern. Sure. Gaëtan.
A lion's share.
Yes, we've already said that. Armand.
Figurehead. Figurehead.
Figurehead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The British Nationality Act.
The British Nationality Act. Sure. Raphaël.
Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights. Sure. Rose.
The establishment.
The establishment. Yes. Zoe.
Aloof.
Aloof. Sure. Elodie.
Apex.
Sure. Isa.
Class system.
The class system. More specifically about the British monarchy and the monarch himself or herself.
The monarch can be sued in court.
Sure. Mm-hmm. In a court of law. Good. Zoe. Sarah.
The crown.
The crown. Levan.
He summons, prorogues, and dissolves the parliament.
Yes. To summon and to dissolve. Alex.
The heir to the throne. The heir.
The heir.
Yeah, the heir to the
Mm-hmm. To the throne. Mm-hmm. Sure. All right. Elodie, and then we stop.
Royal assent.
Royal assent, definitely as well. All right. Now, just like last time, all right, we're building our routine in recap. I need you to get into groups of 2. Remember what you read in the chapter for today. You have 3 minutes. You share your information in 3 minutes. I ask a couple of you to tell me all about British monarchy. All right? English only, obviously. Let's go. Drop your notes. People, your notes are away. From memory. You read, you index cards, you think. Now it's from memory. Let's go. 3 minutes. Time out. Do I have a volunteer for the recap telling me all about the constitutional powers of the monarch in the UK? Who wants to try? Levan? Thank you, dear. Let's go. Tell me about, and try to use some of those words that we have on the board.
Okay, so first of all, we know that the monarch is a symbol of stability and unity, but he still has, however, a few constitutional powers in his hands. So first of all, he can summon and dissolve the parliament. He can also refuse a bill, but he hasn't done it since 1701.
1701.
So it's a very formal power. He also cannot be sued, and he can show mercy to convicted citizens.
Can you explain to me these three titles
So
for the monarch?
The head of state, that means that he is leading the country, and even if he doesn't take all the decisions, he's still at the top of the country. Head of Commonwealth is...
Oh, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you, I'm sorry. Does that mean that he has actual political power?
No.
All right, good. Doesn't have any political power, right? We're clear on that? Continue, Levan.
Head of Commonwealth is that he is the head of Anglicized countries.
We'll go back to what is the Commonwealth more specifically. Yes.
And the head of Church of England, the monarch is a Protestant, and the church has always been linked with the monarchy. So he is the head of the Church of England.
Sure. Guaranteeing the moral of society, right? That's kind of what it means as well.
And the monarch can only be a Protestant, but he can, since I think 2015, be married to a Roman Catholic.
Exactly. So we'll get back to the reforms in just a second. Thank you very much, Levan. Do we need to add anything about the constitutional powers? So we have, yes, and
Maybe that he appoints some of the lords.
he does. Yes, we can add that. Yes. Joseph?
I think he's also the head of the army, so he can
Yes.
decide war and peace.
Exactly. He's the one who can declare war or peace. Definitely. Rose?
He can appoint bishops.
He can appoint bishops as being the head of the Church of England. Yes, Levan?
And he also has weekly meetings with the Prime Minister.
Weekly meetings. Yes. All right. Anything else about the constitutional powers of the king? Charlotte.
He appoints the Prime Minister.
Yes. Is that an actual appointment?
No, the Prime Minister is selected by the party of the majority, and then it's kind of something official.
Yes, exactly. He kind of officially appoints the Prime Minister. However, the Prime Minister is the leader of the majority after a
General election.
where we elect. Who do we elect at a general election, Rose?
MPs.
MPs, and the majority party gets to the 10 Downing Street. Yes. All right. We'll add a couple of things along the way today, but mostly speaking, we got the constitutional powers of the king. Again, we do have powers that are mostly titles, but not actual political power. Do we get that? Yes? Everybody?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for answering that. Let's talk about a couple of reforms that were mentioned in the books. Important reforms recently about the monarchy. What do we have? Who's ready to talk about the reforms? Alice?
Since 2013, the succession line has been changed, so it's not it's the primogeniture, the male primogeniture was abolished.
Yes.
So now it's only the elder who's appointed who success the king when he dies. So it's not the male who
It's not the first male, but the first.
The firstborn.
The firstborn, exactly. Yes. So we have something new, and when was that?
2013.
2013.
2013.
Do we agree with that date? 12. 12, and then yes, 2012, and then it was time for that to be put in place. Sure. Do you remember why 2012 this was brought to attention?
The Jubilee?
Sure, but that's not the main reason. What is the context of that law? Think People Magazine. Think People Magazine. What happened? Jeanne?
Maybe because Kate and William got married.
Yes, they got married. I don't think she was expecting yet, but the idea was they wanted to change that for the firstborn to be the next in line and not the first son to be born. So they changed it because of the context of Kate and William's wedding and possible pregnancy to come, right? So 2012, just to have an idea. We're thinking People Magazine here, right? Other important, yes, Tom?
Yes, since the British Nationality Act of 1981, people of England are citizens and no longer a subject of the Queen.
Exactly. Very important terminology, right? Use of terms before they were subjects to the Queen, which created a form of hierarchy and privilege, rights and submission to some extent. And now they are considered as citizens, right? So the term changed, and it changed the way maybe British people saw the monarchy as well, right? Something else that you had in mind? Bertie?
I'm not sure, but I think that since 1993, the Queen accepted to pay the income.
Yes, to pay income tax. This is going to be an important argument later on today when talking about the pros and cons of monarchy. All right, trying to see how expensive it is for British citizens to maintain that monarchy or not, and the fact that she decided to pay income taxes played a huge part in how British citizens view the monarchy as well at that point. Okay, shifted a little bit. All right, thank you very much. What about one last aspect in your book was the need to modernize this British monarchy. In what aspect do you think we need to modernize the British monarchy according to the book? Raphaël.
They wanted to be closer of people and
closer
to
thank you.
British citizens.
Closer to British citizens, so creating a new relationship, right? Creating a new relationship with their citizens, definitely. Something else about modernization of the British monarchy. Jeanne.
Some people want royal children to go to state schools.
Yes, the question of education was a strong point as well in how the British citizens relate or not to the British monarchy, right? They do have an education that is private, very expensive, and very elitist, and so there is talk about having them go to public schools, basically. Yes, Jeanne. Something else, Charlotte.
Some people want the speaker to have more executive power.
That is true as well, yes. Other arguments in terms of what do we need to do to modernize the monarchy? Or what events, from your personal knowledge, what events triggered this need for modernity?
Some people want the speaker, the president of the House of Commons, to get more powers.
You
just
said that. But we're good. That's totally fine. Repeating is good. Repeating is good. All right. So yes. So more power to the House of the Speaker of the House of Commons. Sure, Mika.
Since the death of Queen Elizabeth II, people want a republic and not a monarchy.
Yes. So changing the political system a little bit. There's a need for a political change in the UK. Especially, we saw that with the video, and this is going to be a smooth transition towards what we did last time, since Queen Elizabeth's death, right? Alex, you wanted to say something?
Yes, but when the time of needs of change is when Princess Diana died, and that Tony Blair kind of forced the Queen to do a national funeral.
Exactly.
And she didn't want, because there had tension between the two, so it said in the book that he kind of saved the monarchy.
It totally did. Totally did. Yes, you're right, Alex. So something we're going to see, and well, you were not born when Lady Diana died, right? Oh, I feel so old right now. But this was a major moment. Remember when I told you to keep an eye on some of the People magazine, especially when talking about the British monarchy, because they do headlines in a lot of the tabloids, a lot of the People magazine. This gives you also an idea of how the British citizens feel about the monarchy. The moment Lady Diana died, 1998, right? 98? 9? 7. Was a, remember I told you that the death of Queen Elizabeth II was a turning point in history because she had reigned for 70 years. She was the symbol of stability, of unity, of continuity. Well, another turning point in the history of the British monarchy was the death of Lady Diana. Definitely, because she was also very much appreciated by the British citizens. Okay? And her death, because she was officially divorced from Charles, the Queen had never really approved of that divorce because she is the head of the Church of England. And despite the fact that divorce is allowed in the Church of England, it is not necessarily praised, right? And as the person guaranteeing the moral of the country as the head of the Church of England, this moment was very tough for her because she was officially not part of the royal family anymore. Lady Diana, I'm talking about Lady Diana, was not part of the family anymore. She had divorced Charles. However, she was so appreciated by British citizens that it marked a turning point when people saw that she was not really doing anything to help that grieving moment for British citizens, that indeed Tony Blair, Prime Minister at the time, you're totally right, Alex, Prime Minister at the time, kind of saved the monarchy by saying and kind of imposing on the royal family to do a funeral that was up to the appreciation of the British citizens. All right, so does that make sense? So we do have a couple of turning points in the history of the monarchy in recent years. The death of Lady Diana, the death of Queen Elizabeth II are two major turning points, but not only, we'll talk about the Megxit as well. Have you heard of that? Yes. Harry and Meghan, right? Megxit. As another moment when questioning the British monarchy and the way they are dealing with maybe past issues such as colonization, racism within the family, etc., etc. All right, so a need to modernize and have ideas and principles that would fit today's society. Right? Does that make sense for the chapter that you read for today? Yes? All right, so smooth transition. We are going to go back to the video that we started watching last time. So you can open your notebooks. Looking over the notes that you took when we watched the video last time. 17th?
Yeah.
Right? Yes? Okay, thank you. And can you give me a little bit of an introduction to that video? Remember what we said about what is the nature, the context of the video? Lila.
This video is a report from
Sorry, a what?
This video is a report from
Lila. Report.
report
Yes, R, not French way. A report.
From CBS News,
Short.
an American channel. The topic of this video is about how England deals with the rising debates concerning the sustainability of the British monarchy since Queen Elizabeth's death.
Yes. All right. And what did we say about that first part of the video? First part of the video. What did we say about it? Luca.
That people were pretty neutral
Relatively.
about it.
Pretty neutral would be an oral thing to say, so you can say it to the class, that's fine. If you were to write it, relatively would be better, okay? Relatively neutral, yes. We are, Sarah?
It was a summit of what did King Charles III as a king.
Yes, exactly. We're a year into him being king, right? It's been a year that he has been king, and we're trying to evaluate, to assess his performance as the new monarch of the United Kingdom. Louis?
And at the time of the video, we said that King Charles III tried his best to fill his mother's shoes.
Exactly.
So he did not, he didn't make any like big things for now. He's just trying to do his best.
Sure. So he did his best to fill his mother's shoes, definitely. And so relatively neutral, not very positive, all right, not clearly positive assessment of his year as a king. However, trying his best. Oui.
Yeah, and also what the people said, because two people were interviewed, but they were pretty elderly women and also like a young man. So
Yes.
it was quite interesting to see the different generation point of views. And also they were saying that Queen Elizabeth II reigned for over 70 years. So she was a symbol of stability, of unity, and her death just not exploded everything, but it's kind of hard to try to keep that unity again, and to King Charles needs to create something new from ashes, like ashes of the monarchy. Yeah.
It's a little dark. It's a little dark.
It's an image, yeah.
Sure. So you mentioned something very interesting that we are going to keep on talking about in this video, is we have an elderly woman first, relatively neutral, positive, saying, well, I mean, considering the job, it was okay. And a young man. How do we call that difference, that discrepancy between two generations?
Generation gap.
Generation or generational gap, definitely. So we do have, and this is going to be very clear later on in the video, we'll talk about it right now, that there is a generation gap that is widening, remember that verb, widening, in British society regarding the monarchy. The second part of the video turns to a man, remember, a man that is called Matt Turnbull. Matt, if I remember well, Matt Turnbull. Who is this person? Do you remember? from your notes? Who is this person? Charles?
I'm not sure, but he thinks that he's at the head of a movement that wants a presidential regime.
Yes.
To replace the monarchy.
Do you remember the terms that we can use to describe Matt Turnbull?
Sarah was an anti-monarchist.
So anti-monarchist, yes. Or, Elodie?
Defendant of the Republic.
Yes. So he's a pro-Republican activist. An activist is somebody who is politically involved in a movement, right? An activist. And having watched this video a couple of times, can you tell me now what is the intention of the journalists actually, when they decided to interview him? What do you think they wanted to get out of this interview? We're talking about the implicit here. Not just what he said, but why do you think the journalists interviewed him in particular? Mathilde.
It's to show that the British monarchy isn't really stable, like as stable as it looks, because we still know that only 27% of the British people want to abolish the monarchy, so it's still a relatively a low number.
Yes, very good. To show that it is not as stable. We mentioned and repeated many times in the book, in the class, that the British monarchy is a symbol of stability. Remember, we have, especially with since COVID, we've had many prime ministers. Sometimes for a very short period of time, right? We remember Liz Truss, 47 days. Okay? So we have many prime ministers, but we have one head of state. Image of stability. However, by interviewing Matt Turnbull, we see that the journalist wants to show that it is not a smooth image, that we clearly have some opposition to this monarchy. Something that maybe, remember that this is an American channel, maybe we have more differences in people's opinions, in citizens' opinions, than what we think. Okay? Very good, Mathilde. Tom, you wanted to add something? Sorry.
Yes, that's. This is the
Do you wanna rephrase that for me, please?
Yes. So the journalist wants us to understand and see the point of view of anti-monarchist, and it's a legitimate point of view.
Legitimate.
Legitimate.
Legitimate. Legitimate. Definitely. Yes, Ruth.
And to add on that topic, and also the generational gap, what we could see and what the journalists of CBS News wanted to show is that the younger generations are more, not more Republican, but they are indeed more critical about the monarchies, because we can see some protests, some
protest.
Some protests, yeah. And on these protests, we can see a lot of teenagers or young people. Also, when we see a picture of King Charles III, who is standing, and we see some things. I think an egg or something like that.
Yeah, or like a tomato or something.
Tomato throwing at him by some young voices. So it's so there are images of the young people, and also there are statistics which are important, like the between the 18 years old and to 18 to 24 years old, it's 40% of these ages who wants a republic or wants more or less power to the monarchy and more like a republic, more democracy or something like this.
You said 40%, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It's 40.
40?
40%?
Yes. 40% of
18 to 24.
people aged 14 to 24. 18 to 24, sorry. Aged, yes, they can vote. Think, Madame Charles, think. 18 to 24 are in favor of a republic. To be in favor of something, yes. So 40% of people aged 18 to 24 are in favor of a republic. Alice. Okay, can we ask in English, Major, please?
A question about the click word. It's not the journalist wants to show that to monkey, or you can.
You can. It's
mandatory or not?
It is not mandatory in that case.
Okay.
If it's better if you write that. When you speak, you don't have to. We'll get back on that when we do some of the translations. Sometimes we need that, sometimes we don't. Both are okay in this situation. Okay? So to show that the monarchy if you want to, or to show the monarchy, both are acceptable here. Gaëtan? No, Arthur, sorry.
In the video, we can also observe that there is a manifestation, that there is in the manifestation.
Not manifestation, what is the word that we saw? Armand? Demonstration, a demonstration. Go ahead, Arthur.
We can observe that in the demonstration, there is a majority of labels.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. Thank you, Arthur. Sarah?
We had a sentence like not liking, and the journalist also mentioned the one that occurred on the day of King Charles III's coronation.
Coronation, exactly.
Outside of the Buckingham Palace.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it comes from the growing up in the appreciation of the monarch.
So a growing or rising discontent from the British population, definitely. Yes, growing or rising, you can use both adjectives if you want to. Luca, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, but just on this, it's still small demonstrations. Like
Still relatively small, you're totally right.
And also the general opinion also changes. It's not only the younger population, because it's the percentage of people that wants a monarchy dropped from 67% to 62%. So it's not only the younger population, but also all the group ages, like the general population.
So we do have a general trend, definitely.
In only 1 year.
In only 1 year, you're right. And what is the term that was used in the video that I wrote on the board for you? So we go from 67% to 62%. We have therefore a drop, yes, a 5% drop in, remember that? You wrote it down, I think, last week. A 5% drop in support for the monarchy. Do you remember that? No? So when we talk about graphs or when we talk about numbers, all right, it's good to have different ways of presenting those numbers, right? So you can say it goes from 67 to 62%, from 2, or you can just say there's a drop, and in this case, a 5% drop in support for the monarchy. %5 drop in support for the monarchy. Does that make sense for everybody? Yes? Anything else about the video that you would like to add? Yes, Levan.
The main argument of Matt Turnbull was that if the British citizens were to give that much power to a monarch and a single person, they would want to elect and to choose who would be the leader of the state.
Exactly. So they want to have a voice, they want to have their opinion heard about if there is one head of state, they want to be in charge of who is that head of state, right? That's what Matt Turnbull is saying, and you're totally right, Levan. This is going to be, this is not rehearsed, but this is a very good transition toward what we do next. So keep that in mind. Lucas.
Also, we can see in the video that Matt got arrested by the police, but got released later in the day.
Yep.
And they apologized.
Apologized.
About it.
Yes. A term that usually you mispronounce is the difference between an apology and to apologize, the verb. Okay, so he apologized in the past. You're totally right, Luca. Thank you very much. All right, so getting back on what you just said, Levan, we're going to try right now in your notebook 2 columns, pros and cons. What do you think are arguments in favor of keeping the monarchy alive? And what do you think are arguments in favor of switching to a republic? Can you try to, from the readings that you did, from the video that we already saw, try to compile some of those arguments before we watch a video with more arguments to help you with that. But first, think on your own. I'll give you about 2-3 minutes. Pros and cons in favor of a monarchy, against the monarchy. Trying to think about these arguments. I'll give you 5 minutes and then we move on to the video. All right, time out. That was a form of brainstorming on your own, trying to capture the arguments that you saw in your reading, the things that we've been talking about since last week. All right? Now, I'm going to show you a video that opposes those 2 points of view, right? And so what I'm going to do is to split, so for each group of 2, so you guys listen to the pro-republic guy, and you listen to the pro-monarchy guy, all right? Pro-republic, that includes Armand. Pro-monarchy, that includes Oleg. Pro-republic, that includes Charles. Pro-monarchy, thank you, some people are following. Pro-republic and pro-monarchy, okay? So you listen only to one guy. You take notes. We'll watch the video twice for you to have enough time to take those notes. What are their arguments? All right? This is going to complete the brainstorming you just did on your own. Okay? Trying to complete. At the end of the 2 viewings, I'm going to ask you to pair up, obviously, and exchange that information and the different arguments before we share all together. Right? So you focus on just one guy for the moment. Take notes on your guy. And be ready to present those arguments to your partner in just a second. Does that make sense? Let's go. Let me make sure the sound is okay. Good. Let's go.
The crown is apolitical, which means it is above politics, therefore acting as a unifying factor between the four independent nations which make up this United Kingdom.
What Republicans want is someone actually doing what monarchists claim the Queen does. So someone who is independent, who's elected by the people to do that job. Clearly the monarchy is elitist. The monarchy doesn't allow any opportunity to even things out or to create a more egalitarian society, because it instills in our culture and in our institutions this notion that certain people are born into privilege and power.
I would say this is absolutely a fallacy on their part. Her Majesty is there in her duty and capacity as sovereign to award people for services and duty to crown and country, rewarding people for what they are, not for how much they have in their bank. People come to Buckingham Palace simply for the fact that it means something. Her Majesty is a living, breathing embodiment of the crown, of the state, and it means more when they see the changing of the guard.
People obviously enjoy the heritage and the history, and they want to come and see the palace and the castles. This is a debate about democracy and about politics and about power, and we shouldn't be basing our constitution on what people find entertaining on their holiday. I understand for a lot of monarchists that this is a heartfelt position, and that it comes down to their sense of, what Britain is, their sense of identity. Britain is more than the monarchy. We have to reimagine that identity that doesn't include the fairly grubby political stitch-up that has been perpetuated by one family in the service of the politicians.
I respect their position because it must be difficult to be a minority, not believing in your system of government. I would ask to respect the history, respect who we are through the crown.
Alright, let's watch this one more time. You have your guy in, recognize him? One more time, continue taking notes before we do a little sharing together, okay?
The crown is apolitical, which means it is above politics, therefore acting as a unifying factor between the four independent nations which make up this United Kingdom.
What Republicans want is someone actually doing what monarchists claim the Queen does. So someone who is independent, who's elected by the people to do that job. Clearly the monarchy is elitist. The monarchy doesn't allow any opportunity to even things out or to create a more egalitarian society, because it instills in our culture and in our institutions this notion that certain people are born into privilege and power.
I would say this is absolutely a fallacy on their part. Her Majesty is there in her duty and capacity as sovereign to award people for services and duty to crown and country, rewarding people for what they are, not for how much they have in their bank. People come to Buckingham Palace simply for the fact that it means something. Her Majesty is a living, breathing embodiment of the crown, of the state, and it means more when they see the changing of the guard.
People obviously enjoy the heritage and the history, and they want to come and see the palace and the castles. This is a debate about democracy and about politics and about power, and we shouldn't be basing our constitution on what people find entertaining on their holiday. I understand for a lot of monarchists that this is a heartfelt position, and that it comes down to their sense of, what Britain is, their sense of identity. Britain is more than the monarchy. We have to reimagine that identity that doesn't include the fairly grubby political stitch-up that has been perpetuated by one family in the service of the politicians.
I respect their position because it must be difficult to be a minority, not believing in your system of government. I would ask to respect the history, respect who we are through the crown.
Get into groups of two. You have one pro-republic, one pro-monarchy, and I need you to express the different arguments that you wrote down in your notebook. You have 5 minutes, and then we try to combine all together. Okay. English only, obviously.
Okay, start. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to start. The crown is apolitical, so it's not.
All right, time out.
I love what I lose. It's so fun.
Did you have a chance to share all your arguments, or do you need an extra minute? We're good? Yes. Everybody, you shared the arguments? All right, let's try to reformulate, because what I heard was a lot of the things that were said and that you are just repeating. Can we try to reformulate the arguments by using maybe something a little more appropriate vocabulary, all right? So trying to see what is the implicit of the argument to make it into a term that we can keep in mind. So, Sarah, first of all.
Monarchists said that unlike politicians, a monarch is not involved in politics, so he can be like admired as an abstraction.
Sure. So there's one term that was said that is very interesting for us when talking about the king and the queen. Elodie? Apolitical. Apolitical. Yes. What do you think that means? Or can you explain to me? Ines?
It means that the monarch is above politics.
Mm-hmm. Can we reformulate again? What does that really mean for us, Rose?
The monarch has to stay neutral.
Mm-hmm. Question of neutrality. Remember, we said that he has constitutional powers, but those powers are not real powers. They are titles that he holds, but it does not get him involved concretely into politics, right? Zoe?
The royal family is not, they are not part of any party.
Yes, definitely. So neutrality, they don't belong to any political parties. Definitely, yes, Zoe. Oui.
Yes, because the monarch, like the man in the video said, is the embodiment of the crown, which is apolitical, a unifying thing, which has a lot of sense and a lot of meaning for the British citizen, and what did I want to say?
That's already good, Louis.
Yeah,
I already like it.
And because of that, the king is not controlling everything, but is the union. He's making the union between every part of the society,
Mm-hmm.
part of the kingdoms. He is the living union between all of them, and also between parties. So if he takes position, then it breaks the union and the equality between everyone.
Exactly. Yes, the fact that he's above creates this sort of link between everybody. Right? Did I sum it up? Okay, Louis? Yes. All right, Alex.
Also, since he's the king of all the United Kingdoms, he's also the king of Northern Ireland and Scotland. So he's a unifying structure of United Kingdom. He's not just the king of England. So
exactly.
He kind of, because Scotland tried as like independence movement, so it's kind of something that slows it down. So
Alice, kinda. We're going to drop it.
Yes.
With your friends if you want, but not in class, and definitely not when you write. Right? Kinda, gonna, wanna. No, no. Okay. Yes. So it kind of. All right. Or it sort of tells us that. Okay. But we'll try to drop the kinda, wanna, gonna. Leave it to your friends, but not in class, and definitely not when you write it somewhere in an essay. Okay? Sure. Thank you, Alice. You're right. Unifying as well, unifying the different countries, right, of the United Kingdom. Unifying, we also mentioned earlier, it was not clearly mentioned in the video, I think, but we also mentioned unifying the Commonwealth, right? The countries that belong to this organization of countries that used to be colonies of the British Empire, that became the Commonwealth, creating links between different countries, right? So a unifying symbol. That's very important for you to remember. We again? Go ahead.
I also had a question because we said that the king was the head of state, the head of Commonwealth, and a lot of other titles. But at the time of Queen Victoria, she was the Empress of India. And does this title still exist?
No.
Oh, no, it doesn't exist
With
anymore.
the end of the British Empire, obviously the term disappeared.
So the beginning of Commonwealth, the king wasn't, or the monarch wasn't.
No. But remember that the king right now is still the head of state of a majority of states in the Commonwealth, right? He still has this title as the head of state. I always give the example of Australia. We forget that for the moment, for the time being, although there has been a lot of debates and discussions about becoming a republic in Australia as well, for the time being, the king is the head of state of Australia. Okay, for example, one of the countries in the Commonwealth, and he is the head of state of a majority, not all, definitely not all, but a majority of countries in the Commonwealth. Okay, and we'll talk about that after October break, the organization of the Commonwealth. Okay? Other arguments that we may have in favor of Ines?
Is that the monarchy is enshrined in the British culture.
Yes.
So there's a feeling of belonging among British citizens.
Something that is very important, a sense of belonging, a sense of identity. All right? It is part of the British identity. Oleg?
The history of Great Britain is based on history, on monarchy history. So being against monarchy is mean erase that history.
Exactly. According to a monarchist, at least, right? Erasing the monarchy would be erasing part of their history, right? This is a good argument. Thank you, Oleg. Ines?
The monarchy is also highly beneficial to the GDP of the country.
Yes. Can we explain that? How is that helping the economy of the UK? Zoe?
Because the monarchy attracts people, foreigners and tourists. For example, people come to Buckingham Palace because it means something.
Exactly. Yes. Tourism brings a lot of money to the UK, and the tourism linked to Buckingham Palace, all the places in relation to the monarchy are bringing a lot of money in terms of visits and visitors. So this definitely is a pro argument, right? We need to keep it because this brings money to our economy, right? Other arguments that you have in mind that you Alors, Elodie, ensuite Rose.
The monarchists deny the fact that the monarchy is elitist by saying that the queen's duty is to reward people for who they are, what they are, and not for what they have in the account.
All right, just as we said, it's a unifying symbol. You're totally right, Elodie. The queen, and now the king, obviously, has the power to reward people for the good that they did for society. All right, so it is not elitist in the sense that it acknowledges the participation of citizens in different areas. The cultural area, for example, we know that some people receive medals for their contribution in the arts, for example, and that is one of the ways, that monarchists deny this elitist argument. You're totally right, Elodie. Rose.
The monarchy works as well as works well as a republic. It doesn't need a president or any republican system to work better.
Yes, it's a system that works, basically. And why change something that works? Yes, good, Rose. Lucas.
To say is that they are still in majority.
They are, or
they are.
They are. Mm-hmm.
Still in majority. And even more at the time of the video, it was 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was 78% of people that wanted a monarchy.
Yes, definitely. Sorry, just to go back for the two arguments we just mentioned, it was, you're totally right, Lucas. Talking about tourism, talking about rewards, there should be a term that we need to associate right here in terms of the monarchy and its power. When we talk about soft power, does that ring a bell, this term soft power? So this is definitely a term that we are going to use if we are a pro-monarchy. The soft power, the honor of having the king as a representative of the country going abroad at the international level, having the recognition of places like Buckingham Palace as places that attract a lot of people, generating a lot of money, for example. This is something that we need to remember as the soft power of the monarchy, a term that is going to be very important later on. I will try to write on top, sorry guys. Now, yes.
And also to link with the chapter we wrote on the book, and to link with the soft power of the monarchy, is that the monarchy has sort of mystique or a whole imaginary through traditions, through customs, through the protocols.
Yes.
So it attracts tourism a lot, and especially during weddings or during a coronation.
Exactly. The media image of the, definitely. The media is also, and the royal family is very much in charge of its image in the media, right? They control that very much. I will post on Classroom for you the website of the royal family. Very interesting to check regularly that website just to see how are they portraying themselves. How do they want the media to portray the royal family? How are we going to portray Prince Harry's birthday? That was yesterday or today? Yesterday? Oh, people read magazines, please. People magazine. So we do have Harry celebrated his 40th birthday. All right, and major event. And he was in the UK not so long ago, met with his father and his brother, obviously, although we know there's a little bit of a internal conflict, right, in the family, especially regarding Harry and Meghan, the fact that they were removed from the royal family, that they moved to Canada and the US to raise their children, the Megxit, as I mentioned at the beginning of the hour. So this notion of media and the image in terms of soft power, the fact that they did a lot of documentaries I'm talking about Harry and Meghan, for example. We have seen a couple of documentaries with Oprah, if I'm not mistaken, at least one with Oprah, one on Netflix that is just the two of them, if I'm not mistaken as well, trying to be in charge of the narrative of their lives. So the notion of media and image is going to be very important as well in terms of soft power. You're totally right. Anything else? Yes, Isa.
This isn't in the video, but you said earlier that the Queen pays income tax is an argument in favor of monarchy.
In favor of the monarchy, they are making adjustments to their way of lives in order to contribute to the country, right? By paying income taxes, which would be a counter argument for one of the major argument in favor of a republic, which is that the monarchy costs a lot. Yes. So counter argument, as you mentioned, is they do pay, or she decided, Queen Elizabeth II decided to pay income taxes about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, can't remember, a little more than that.
It was 1993, yeah.
So 13, not really good at math. 20 years ago, 30 years?
30 years ago.
30 years ago. I'm an English teacher, people. Come on. Be nice. Be nice. She decided to pay income taxes, which was a counter argument for what pro-Republicans wanted, which means it was very expensive to maintain that monarchy. The citizens are paying to maintain the buildings, for example, to maintain Buckingham Palace, the personnel, the staff. All right, so all of this is part of the taxes that British citizens pay. And so the counter argument is, well, they make an effort to pay income taxes. Levan?
But does King Charles III still pay
Yes,
income tax?
yes. That was made into something that, a law, if I'm not mistaken, a law. So he has to pay his income taxes. The British royal family, I believe, is one of the wealthiest royal families in the world. So paying income taxes was an actual big gesture. All right? They do pay a lot of taxes in the end. Rose.
And also the Queen funded a grant for the restoration of the castle that burnt. I don't remember which one, but she funded every
It was, yes, the Windsor Castle 1992. You read that in the book, I believe. If you watched the TV show The Crown, or if you have watched it. Of course, madam. Okay, thank you. Watch it. If there is one thing you need to do is watch this TV show on Netflix. Very well represented, a very good representation of the royal family and the different political issues that came up in history. And one of those very important moments was 1992, with what she called in that famous speech, in Latin, annus horribilis, the horrible year, right? Because Windsor Castle burnt. Princess Diana and Charles divorced. I think there was another divorce in the family the same year. 2 or 3 divorces happened in the same year. So Queen Elizabeth was not feeling good that year. It was a tough year for the royal family. And so she decided, indeed, you're totally right, Rose, to pay for the reparations of Windsor Castle herself, because it was something very personal, and she knew that the British citizens would not understand if they were asked to pay more taxes for that, definitely. Other arguments in favor of a republic. What do we have? Arthur.
Because the monarchy is elitist,
Yes.
So she prefer.
The monarchy, not she. The monarchy, it. Okay, it's unfair. The monarchy is not a lady. I mean, we wish it was, but it's not just a lady. Okay, so it, yes. So elitism. Elitism. The ending of the word ism. 2 syllables. Elitism. All the word in ISM, ism. Okay? All right. Charles?
Even if the monarchy is apolitical, it still has power and influence and privilege, only based on heredity.
Sorry, I didn't hear you, dear.
Based on heredity.
Yes. Yes.
So it's unfair.
The privilege that you get from being born into that family, basically. Yes, good, Charles. Mathilde, you wanted to add something?
The identity of all Great Britain should not be based on only one family.
Yes.
And the debate is not really about the castle or the history, but more about the democracy, politics, and the powers.
The debate is about the political institutions, you're right, Mathilde, not about the support for a certain family in particular or for a castle in particular. It's about the political regime of the country. You're totally right. Zoe, you wanted to say something?
The monarchy perpetuates a system of privileges and inequalities of situations.
Yes, definitely. So perpetuating this class system that you mentioned at the very beginning of class when we did the recap. You mentioned the class structure, the class system in the United Kingdom. Pro-Republicans would say that the monarchy is helping that system. Yes. Good, Zoe. Baptiste, you wanted to say something?
So the fact that the monarch have too much power, like to decide war and peace, and also the fact that the monarch cannot be sued in law.
And that has a term that I'm going to give you because I'm not sure you know it. It's the question of accountability. What you're talking about is this idea that Republicans think that the monarch has no accountability. He's there, it's his privilege, he's born into it, it's hereditary, right? We mentioned that. But people do not play a role in who that person is. All right, so there's a lack of accountability to the citizens. The link between the citizens and the king is almost non-existent. There is no way for British citizens to get the king out of its role, right? So lack of accountability. Lack of accountability.
Maybe I read in the book that in the 1980s there was a scandal about Charles getting involved in politics. So they are not that apolitical than they want to believe.
Yes, we'll get into that maybe if we have time later on today. Technically, they are apolitical. Right? They don't belong to any political parties. They do not show any favors towards one party or the other. However, we know, Charles was not king at the time. He had made his opinion in particular about Ireland and Northern Ireland relatively clear. But he was not king at the time. Okay, but we kind of know, and at the time we knew what his opinion was about Ireland and Northern Ireland, at a time when Ireland and Northern Ireland, we call that the Troubles, we'll talk about it later on in the year. There was terrorist attacks in Northern Ireland and in London as well. We know that Charles at the time made his opinion, political opinion, very clear, but he wasn't king at the time. All right, slight nuance. Rose?
Just to say that the monarchy is not stable anymore since the death of Princess Diana.
Stability is questioned with the different divorces that we had in the British royal family. In particular, the divorce of Charles and Lady Diana that created some reactions from British citizens. With Megxit, Meghan again. I don't only read People magazine, but it's very entertaining sometimes. So Meghan and Harry leaving the family. All right, so again, stability, question mark, right? The death of Queen Elizabeth II. She had reigned for 70 years, and now we don't really know where this is going. All right, in particular because British people did not necessarily want Charles to become king, but they would have preferred William to become king directly, right? It's not in the line of succession. That would have been a breach of protocol. However, I think people would have liked somebody younger, especially after we knew that he had cancer not so long ago. He is fighting and struggling with cancer. So this notion that he might not stay that long, or at least not as long as his mother, may create a form of instability. So all of these scandals are questioning this notion of unity and stability of the British monarchy, definitely. Anything else? Oui.
And also it wasn't told in the video, but I like the monarchy is quite outdated because it's a political system or regime which is among republics in Europe, or constitutional monarchies like in Spain or Denmark, but which are more open to the public. Like I've seen that it was last year, I think, in Denmark, the Queen of Denmark decided to abduct.
Yes.
Yeah, because she thought that maybe she was too old for this, or she wanted to pass the thing to her son. So she, like, contrary in the contrary to these kinds of monarchies like in Spain, which are, I think, closer to people or less powers, we don't really talk about them. So
less power or
power.
fewer powers.
Okay, so yeah, so maybe these monarchies had fewer powers than this special monarchy. So maybe for some people, we say that it's not legitimate to, or maybe outdated.
Legitimate.
Legitimate.
Legitimate in terms of pronunciation. Good. Anything else that you want to add? Sarah?
About elitism, the monarchist point was that it is all a fallacy and that in reality people are really just. And if they are, it's for the services to duty and to duty to the crown and not for the money, for example.
Yes. All right. Sarah. Anything else? All right. Globally speaking, we have the major arguments. I'm going to leave that on the board for the moment because what I would like us to do for the last 20 minutes is trying to use the topic of the British monarchy to work on an essay together and to work in particular on how to be efficient in writing an introduction. All right? So we are going to work on, I'm going to give you an essay assignment in just a second, but before we do that, most of the time, your first sentence in an introduction, the one that should be, as I call it, chic et choc, is usually very plain. So we're going to try and work on that first sentence to make it very chic et choc, for that first sentence to be very punchy, and to catch the attention of your reader right away. All right, so for that, I have a quick activity for you. I think that's it. You paste it in your notebook, please. It's a half page, should be okay. Paste it in your notebook. And we'll start with a little bit of tips on how to write that first punchy sentence in an introduction. I give you first sentences that I see on a regular basis that are very plain, sometimes almost not interesting. And we're going to try and work it out to make it punchy. So the first example, do you all have your paper with you? It's all pasted in your notebook right now? Yes? Good. So I give you first sentences, and I need you to rewrite that idea in a more punchy way by giving you little tips on how to improve that sentence. Let's start together with the first one. Immigration is a difficult problem. Not very punchy, right? Let's try and figure out a use of other adjectives, other specific nouns to make this sentence, immigration is a difficult problem, into something a little more interesting. Think, write. We'll share the first sentence and then I'll let you follow the different steps. Give you 1 minute for the first one. How would you transform that sentence? Ines?
Throughout history, immigration has sparked many tensions within our society.
Has sparked many tensions? Mm-hmm. Yes. To spark, very good verb. It has sparked many tensions in society? Yes, I like that. Rose?
Immigration has turned into a critical issue in our society.
It turned into a critical issue. I like it, critical. What other adjectives could we use here? Thomas?
Major.
A major. Mm-hmm. Major, that works. Mathis?
Large issue.
A large issue. Oleg?
Critical.
Yes, critical. Right here. Elodie?
Complex.
Complex. Yes, Mathilde?
Controversial.
Controversial. Yes.
Paramount.
That would you would use it. A paramount. I wouldn't use it in that situation specifically. Let me try it. Okay, I'm blanking right now. I'll give you an example of in what context I would use that word. Okay, but right now I'm blanking. But I'll get back to you, Ines.
Crucial.
Crucial.
Sensible.
Sensible. All right, let me give you a little bit of vocabulary here. Thorny. You heard of thorny? Yes? The thorny issue. What's a thorn? In French? Une épine for a plant. All right, and on a rose, for example. Thank you, Rose. Sorry. I'll hide under the table at the end. Sorry.
A vexing issue. A vexing issue.
Sure. I was thinking as well of multifaceted, which is another adjective that you might want to use on a regular basis. Multifaceted. To say complex, it's basically a synonym for complex. Multifaceted. And when you say that, when you say complex, when you say thorny, when you say multifaceted, you're already bringing nuance that are possible in your development, right? How multifaceted? What are those different facets of that situation, of that issue? All right? So interesting. Now, the next couple of tips are to avoid overused or empty expressions. Second example that you have in your paper is, and you should be laughing, nowadays global warming is a hot topic. I read that, I kind of grin a little bit. Global warming is a hot issue. You see why I would say, right? Not very, the choice of word is a little too obvious, right? How could we reformulate this without using this very empty expression of topical or hot issue that you use all the time? How can I reformulate that? The idea is talking about global warming and that it is something important, right? How can I reformulate that? To make it more interesting. So try to avoid those expressions that we use all the time and that don't mean anything anymore. Mathis, you have an idea? Or you think? Try.
That maybe use recently and speak about a precise example.
Exactly. Yes, that could be a good way. So recently this happened and it leads us to believe that global warming is a pressing issue, for example. Pressing would be better than hot topic, right? A pressing issue. So using an example, a specific example, something that happened recently, the wildfires in California, for example.
You know, maybe the dramatize, like saying that it's a life issue, something like Earth life issue. I don't know how to say it, but it's how issue the topic is.
Sure.
Give it more credit.
So it's about survival.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yes, so a little dramatic. We can be dramatic. I like dramatic. You'll see. Tom?
Nowadays, global warming is at the pinnacle of our concerns.
Ooh. Ooh. I like it. Yes, why not? Mathilde?
In the middle of preoccupations.
In the middle of?
Preoccupation.
Preoccupations. Not in the middle, at the core of. Even better. Now the next tip would be to use a definition of a term. Instead of saying, for example, globalization has become a controversial issue, try to explain what you mean by globalization. Globalization is a term that we use all the time, but maybe you want to mean something a little more specific. So you want to use a definition of what you mean by globalization. Okay, for example, you could say, I don't have my glasses. Once the terrain of scientists and ecologists, climate change and what to do about it have become genuine public concerns. This is not the one that I wanted. So, oh yes, the one next, okay. Once hailed as the means of lifting developing countries out of poverty, that is globalization, to lift a country out of poverty, right? The globalized free market has come under harsh criticism in recent years. So you see how I use the term and try to make it more about what I mean more specifically. And this makes it a little more punchy than just throwing the term globalization, which doesn't mean much to the reader, right? It may mean something to you. It may mean something slightly different to your neighbor, right? What do you use a definition, for example, to be more specific? the next tip that I'm going to give you is, for example, oh yeah, I hear that a lot and I read that a lot. Education is important. Yes. Why? Having a statement that is so short and so obvious is not very punchy. You need to say because. You need to explain what you mean. All right? Don't just state a fact. Try to go a little deeper. Right? So the next step would be to make it into something more specific. And the last tip would be linking it to a historical event, to statistics, for example. Now we have a couple of statistics for the British monarchy. We know about how many people support the monarchy or not. We can use that as a punchy first sentence for our introduction on a topic, on an essay about the British monarchy. All right? So those are different tips for you to not just say something plainly. Education is important. Immigration is a difficult issue. All right. Let's try to make it a little more punchy. All right? Using these different tips, we have less than 10 minutes, but we can do it. I have a topic for you. An essay topic. On Monday morning, you could have had that, for example. Essay, topic, very obvious from the unit that we're dealing with right now. Does the monarchy still make sense in 21st century Britain? You have the pros and cons. You need to make up your mind. So what I want you to do in the next 5 minutes is to write an introduction. Think about that first punchy line using the tips that we just saw. Don't tell me the monarchy is outdated, period. Try to make it into something very punchy. Try to think about that. Have a sentence of developing your idea, and then we have our main question for the introduction. You do it in the next 5 minutes. Think about your introduction to this essay. Follow the tips, read the tips again, and write your introduction. All right, time out. Homework for next week. Sorry. I need you to finish that introduction. All right? And first half of the class, that includes Oleg. This part of the class, you're going to write one part of the development, right? One part that says, yes, it still makes sense. I need you to write one part that says, no, it doesn't make sense. Okay? So using the arguments that we've had, that we wrote in our notebook, using those arguments or personal arguments that you have, I need half the class to work on it does make sense. The other half of the class, it doesn't make sense anymore. Okay, so finish your introduction, write one large paragraph. We'll work on the methodology on how to write all of this. Okay? Does that make sense? You also have chapter 4 to read, if I'm not mistaken, right? Chapter 4 on the political parties in the UK. We'll focus on the political parties in the UK. All right? Yes, everything's clear? Thank you very much.